Hey everybody, welcome back to A Phone Call with Freedom. I am your host, Sarah Jane. Thanks for showing up in my corner of the world where we talk the universe. So if you've been following along, you know that I wrote a book. The book is called Unlocked. It's in its millionth editing stage. But what I've done is I've created this podcast to coincide with the book. So every chapter is in alignment with an episode on this podcast. So today we are on chapter 5, which is all about the universal language. I think that we're in a state of evolution, right? And things are changing. People are beginning to understand that we actually work way different than what we thought, right? And that we're actually connected to something much larger. So the universe is something that I've been exploring within my mind. What does that look like to me? What does God look like to me? I've adopted the idea of a higher self. Just to clarify, to me, that is the version of you that resides in a different world in the universe, okay? So I believe that the world is multidimensional. There's different worlds. It just makes sense to me. There's a lack of memory in this one. I think that that is also strategic and divine because the whole objective is to see, could you disconnect, completely forget who you are, and work your way back to remembering that you're a part of something huge and that you yourself is something absolutely majestic and incredible. That's a hard thing to do when you have all these different structures that are kind of against you, right? They're working against you in their own ways. And so it makes it very difficult because from the second that you're born in, it's kind of like these lower vibrational beliefs about yourself and about the world and how it all works are kind of hardwired from the very beginning. So you embark on this journey of life, and as you get older, you kind of start realizing, I think I'm somebody that the world told me to be instead of who I actually am. And so then it becomes up to you, and it is a responsibility, but it becomes up to you to say, I think I want to find out who I really am, and I want to find a way to embrace that. So along that journey for me, my beliefs about the universe have changed substantially. And one of the most important things that I've had to learn was, how does the universe speak? Because I'll tell you, for the first half of my life, I believed that I was alone in the universe, right? I didn't really know what the universe was. I thought I was alone. Nobody really understood me like I did. Nobody really understood my situations like I did. And I felt very alone. When I started inviting in the idea that Earth is not the only world and that there are worlds that exist outside of here, there's information that I'm unaware of. The universe is full of things and vast and beautiful and gorgeous, and that I could tap into that wisdom that resides outside of the here and now and the consciousness of here and now. That was a huge help and has been and still is a very huge table turner, if you will, for helping me to get to where I was trying to go. So when my father crossed over, and of course I have some other friends that I lost during my awakening journey, I started asking questions like, I know you're not here anymore, right? But I choose to believe you're still alive somewhere. So how does that work? How are you going to communicate to me now? And let's just primarily stick to the idea of my father. When he crossed over, I started meditating, and that was a process in itself because I would just hysterically cry over and over and over again until finally I got used to seeing him again, and I was healing from the situation. And this was all conscious work that I was doing. I would set my intention, see him, bawl my eyes out, and every day got a little bit better. I got a little stronger. I healed a little bit more until finally I made it to a point where it was normal to see him in my meditations. And so we started taking it a step further. Like, okay, I understand you're still alive. How are we going to be communicating? And this takes me to the universal language. All right. So as always, I'm basically just going to read through the chapter and add my input here and there. So let's dive in. Chapter 5, the universal language. The universe will talk to you in many ways because it speaks through all of its creations. Everything in your reality, from the dirt beneath your feet to the pencil in your hand, the universe is all of it, and it will speak through these creations, including yourself and others. You, my dear, are one of the most beautiful creations that the universe has ever created, and your thoughts should never be ignored, for they are always the universe speaking through you. Now, whether or not you manipulate these thoughts because of conditioning is a different story. But nonetheless, with your free will, choose to believe that your thoughts are so much more than what we've been taught. And then start giving yourself some credit. All right? Your thoughts are extremely important, especially as you begin deprogramming these old beliefs that society has wired, and you start reprogramming new beliefs. That conversation becomes louder, clearer, and more important. All right? The universe will speak to you through the events and the people in your life. Numerology, different number patterns, all right? Smells, visions, intuitive nudges, when you just know something. People you encounter, animals, and your thoughts. I'm sure there are many other ways that the universe will communicate with you, but let's just start here. We'll dive into more as the book unfolds. So the first is the events in your life. Okay? Everything in your reality is your energy in form. I want you to really hear me when I say that. Everything in your reality is your energy in form. Especially anything that's in your immediate vicinity. Anything that is yours. It is your energy taking form. This is important to understand. We've been taught to see things as separate from us. But if you release that perspective, a perspective that I have found to be very beneficial is that everybody and everything in your immediate vicinity is your energy in form. This perspective has served me tremendously. So when somebody or something shows up in my reality, at the end of the day, I need to take some time to myself, let go of that person, place, or thing, let go of the details, right? And look for the deeper energy. What do they represent? What does this represent? How does it make me feel? That's going to tell you where you need to adjust your energy. How did this circumstance or that person surface in my reality? Then dive into the reflection so that you can work to heal and eliminate the energy from your energy field, thus dissolving the experience that you're having. So a lot of times, you have, for example, we'll talk about you have one relationship and then you finally overcome that relationship, but then 6 months later you attract somebody that's very similar. That means you didn't actually heal the energy, okay? So it may show up as a different person, a different thing, a different experience. It's not the person, place, or thing that you want to look at. It's the energy behind it. How does this make you feel? How can you become a better person from this? Where do you need to let go, rise above, grow, right? When you understand that the universe is using things in your reality to speak to you, you can do deeper work and you can speak back. Right? This strengthens your relationship with the universe. If somebody is in my reality and they are my energy in form, let's say, and they stole from me, okay? This is a real example. I had somebody steal something very valuable to me. In that space, I had to look at myself and be real with myself. It's always either a lesson, a test, or a reflection. And in this case, I talk about this in some of the previous podcasts, so you'll have to go back and listen to some of the other episodes. But my point is, in this case, I had to do a deeper dive and get real with myself and say, where am I stealing from myself? Not physically, I mean emotionally, physically, mentally. Where am I stealing from myself? Where am I doing things that I don't want to do? Because that means I'm stealing from myself. Where am I continuing to have relationships, friendships, conversations that aren't actually me? I'm outgrowing them. And yet I'm continuing to put myself around people, places, and things that are not for me. That is stealing from yourself. All right? So I had to go in there, rectify that energy, and long behold, what was stolen from me was returned. All right? So that's something that's really important for you to understand, is that the universe will speak to you through the events in your life. It is showing you clearly who you are and where you stand subconsciously. The important thing to note here is not to beat yourself up. We are all dealing with conditioning. Okay? So what you want to do is you want to observe your reality. You want to look at the deeper energies. You want to change what you need to emotionally, set boundaries where you need to, have conversations where you need to, cry your eyes out where you need to, get to work so that you can get to the other side of this. Okay? But that is, for me, the most important way that the universe has spoken to me is through the events in my life. I've just been able to understand the language now. So rather than my conditioning, which was I'm a victim, I can't believe this happened, that's not how I see things anymore. I see it as somebody is speaking to me. I need to slow down, I need to sit down, and I need to engage in the conversation. Right? So the second way that the universe is really going to talk to you is through numerology. Okay, and we see this all the time, right? 444, 555. You start seeing all these numbers. There's only so many times that you can see these numbers before you start thinking, like, is something talking to me? The best part about the numbers is you can ask the universe, your higher self, creator, God, however you see that. You can ask the universe, I want to do this or I want to do that, and I need a sign. Can you send me a 333 or a 444 or whatever sign it is that you want to see? And at some point in time, once you release that and let it go and you're in the present moment, you're not looking for it because you trust it's coming, it's on its way, it's going to surface for you. And so that's another communication method. Hey, I'm feeling a little lost right now. Which decisions should I make? The universe is always going to tell you, you already know, but I'm here to support you. I'm going to send you number synchronicities. There are certain times where you're not even looking for number synchronicities. You're just having a conversation in your head. And then all of a sudden you pull up behind a car, or you see a mailbox, or, somebody's wearing a necklace or has a tattoo. Like, it comes in so many different ways, right? But numerology is a huge way for the universe to communicate with you for some reason. I don't know exactly what the numbers have to do with it, but numerology is an important part of the communication method between our world and some of the other worlds. So what you want to do when you get these numbers is look them up. Because again, you want to engage in conversation. If you just see the number and you're like, oh, I see the number, and then you just don't do anything about it, it's like somebody saying a statement and you just saying nothing back. When you look the numbers up, when you try to take that extra step, you're engaging in a conversation. So I definitely implore that you do that. If you see number synchronicities, take a moment, look it up. You're going to be guided to exactly what you need to hear, and then be grateful for that. And you're going to get more guidance, more conversation. All right? So there are all types of meanings for all the different types of numbers. We'll get into that. I'll do a specific podcast for that when we just do a podcast specifically on numerology. The book has a lot of information specifically on numerology in this chapter, but we're just going to move on quickly to the different types of methods of communication. Oh, I got a lot in here, all about double-digit numbers and what each number means. If you're interested, definitely do some research for yourself here. All right, bear with me. Okay, here we go. A few of the other ways that the universe will communicate with you are through smells. There will be times where you're just sitting there and all of a sudden you smell something and you're like, wow, that's my dad's cologne, or that smells like my uncle's cologne, or that's my aunt's perfume, or that smells like, lavender or roses, and, that correlates to somebody. The universe will influence your thoughts through smells and through certain visions. And depending on what you truly believe about this earthly experience and the universe will depend on how the universe shows up to you. Okay, so your belief structure has a lot to do with how you're going to receive this communication. It's not very often that I personally get smells. I do get them on occasion. I did give the example of the father and the uncle because I do occasionally get my father's cologne and my uncle's cologne. It's very strong, it's very potent, and it's very like, I know you're here. But I don't get smells all the time, if you will. But I have on occasion, which is fun. Right? Okay. And then it's also not very often for me that I get visions. But again, this is different for everybody. Some people are way more clairvoyant than others. They kind of have this knowing, this sense. So depending on, again, the belief structure that you have and the type of individual that you are depends on how often the universe will communicate to you in these methods. So I don't get tons of visions, maybe out of the corner of my eye once in a while. And what will happen is I'll think I see something and I'll turn my head and I'll be like, what was that? Like, I thought I just saw something. And really there was nothing there, but I thought I saw something because they wanted me to turn my head and look at something. And by they, I mean my higher self, right? That version of me, that's the highest version of me in the universe. And so they'll want me to, turn my head, and next thing you know, I'm looking at the calendar, and then I start thinking thoughts like, okay, it's, Monday. And then I'll start thinking, well, okay, I forgot, I got to do this on Friday. And then that'll lead me into a conversation. And here you think you're talking to yourself, but you are yourself. You are the universe, right? Universe. So you end up having a conversation with your higher self that just kind of leads you from one thing into another. That's how the universe works, though. It's so wild. The communication method, it works through you somehow. So if you're somebody that does smell things often or has visions, follow that. Follow those intuitive smells, those intuitive nudges, those intuitive visions, and allow them to develop into a larger conversation. Speaking of intuitive nudges, have you ever looked over because you felt like someone was looking at you, kind of like what I was just saying? Or have you looked over at the clock randomly and it was a number synchronicity like 1111? This is your intuition. Your intuition is an inner knowing that you can't really explain. This is your connection to that version of yourself in the other realm. Your intuition is a part of yourself that you want to build a very close relationship with. Your intuition is your best friend. It's going to ride out with you. Do you have levels of conditioning to work through? Yes. But your intuition, truly that gut instinct, that is always going to have your back. All right? You want to build a relationship with your intuition and allow your intuition to guide your action steps. Your inner intuition is a direct link to your higher self in the universe and your guides. Okay? So they're connecting with you through that inner knowing that we call your intuition. Okay? The universe will connect with you through animals. Animals are just like everything else in this world. Energy in form. When an animal crosses your path, it's an energy trying to get your attention. Every animal represents a different energy. So I'm going to list a couple animals here. Dogs. Right? Everybody has dogs. What do they represent? They represent loyalty, friendship, unconditional love, not conditional love, unconditional love, protection, enjoying life's simple pleasures, right? So when a dog crosses your path, this is what that energy is saying. Take a deep breath. Be loyal to yourself. Love yourself, right? Protect your energy. Enjoy the simple things in life. If you're somebody that loves animals and loves dogs, that's what life is saying. All right, cats. Cats are all about observation. They're about protection, and they are fiercely independent. So when a cat is around you, if you're a cat lover, you're probably somebody that's observant a little bit or needs to be observant, right? Maybe you might feel safe, you might feel unsafe. A lot of times when cats are around, they're there to protect you. So you want to look at subconsciously, how safe do you feel? And is that a category that you could enhance on, right? So that you can feel safer in the reality that you're living, okay? And fiercely independent. This energy is usually about building on your independence, learning how to be one with yourself, all right? A snake. Snake is all about change, letting go. They shed their skin. They're all about transformation, rebirth. If a snake crosses your path, it's probably an indicator that it's time to rebirth. There's something there that it's time to let go. You don't need to have that anymore. It's not serving you. All right? A bird, expansive perspective. Expand your perspective. If you're sitting outside, you're having a conversation with yourself, you're trying to find an answer, and a bird lands right there. It is saying, work with the universe. You need a bird's eye perspective. All right? Expand what you're looking at. You're not seeing the whole picture. All right? So birds are all about expanding. They're all about freedom. They're all about hope and new beginnings. They bring fresh energy. Deer is all about being gentle with yourself. Being gentle, using your intuition, innocence, safety, strength, and protection. Deer is an interesting one because it has this fierceness to it, and yet it's got this gentleness to it. It's kind of interesting because you ever see these deers with those big ass antlers? I mean, well, good Lord, some deer can be like crazy, right? But then you kind of think of a deer and you think gentle and kind. And so the deer is such a beautiful thing because it is this wide range of emotion, but particularly honing in on being gentle with yourself, right? Be kind with yourself. Take a deep breath. We are so hard on ourselves. Take a deep breath. Follow your intuition. How do you really feel? What do you really want to do here? Right? Protect your innocence. It's okay for you to take a deep breath and sit down and just take a moment with yourself. That's okay. You're allowed to do that. Right? Safety, feeling safe, and strength. Feeling strong. So if a deer crosses your path, that's a beautiful omen. Fox indicates cleverness, right? Mischievousness sometimes. Playfulness, beauty, protection, and good luck. So the fox is interesting because it's kind of like sometimes you got to be a little clever. You gotta outplay the matrix, right? You got things coming at you, and you got to find a way to make it happen. You got to think outside of the box, and find a way to make things happen even when you don't see a way, right? So fox kind of indicates that cleverness, mischievousness. So that's basically the end of the chapter here. Let's just do a quick review. How does the universe talk to you? First, through the events in your life, okay? Everything is your energy and form. Take a deeper look. Let go of the person, place, or thing and look at the deeper energy. What emotions does it trigger up in you? Be real with yourself. Have that conversation so that you can work to adjust the energy and eliminate the experience, especially if you don't like it. If you do like it, then you can fixate on the energy to bring more of that towards you, okay? So the experiences and the events in your life. Secondly, numbers. Keep an eye out for numbers and engage in that conversation. When you see a number, look it up. Ask for more. Be grateful, right? Smells and visions. Depending on the type of person you are, you may have subtle smells, may have visions. Allow these to guide you into a conversation. It is the universe speaking to you. Intuitive nudges. You know right from wrong at the end of the day. Are some of these decisions hard? Of course. Why? Because the matrix is up and running still, which I don't even like making that statement. I want to retract it. But we're just in the world right now where we have a lot going on and we have these societal structures and they're still up and cooking, right? And sometimes it's hard to make the decision that we feel is right in our heart of hearts because we're scared. We're scared what's going to happen. Are we able to do this, right? The money structure is still up and running. But I promise you, following your intuition and those intuitive nudges are going to change your life. If you can, in every moment, just make the decision about what's in alignment with you, what feels good right now. And if you just keep doing that, it's going to take you somewhere. All right? And then lastly, animals. All right? So keep your eye out for these animals that cross your path, because they have something to say. They're speaking to you. It's the universe putting that animal in front of you to speak to you. So keep an eye out, all right? Remember, the universe is all of creation, and it will use all of creation to speak to you. All right. I love you guys. I support you. Thank you so much for loving and supporting me. There is a lot more in that chapter, but you can read all that when it's published and you get your copy. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button for me. It keeps me moving in the right direction. And then hop over to my website at sarabundant, sarabundant.com. Subscribe that way so that you get notified when the book is published. I also have another podcast called the Baddie Broadcast. We have an episode comes out every Saturday. So if you're interested in this type of stuff, over there I just talk about how crazy and vulnerable and wild my life is right now, and I'm just telling everybody what I'm doing. So I'm just being crazy, and we always have some fun over there. But so thank you guys so much for all your love and support. I love and support you, and I will see you right back here next Monday when you hop back on for another phone call with freedom.